Star Trek TV shows are set until 2026 or later, but why does it feel like the franchise is failing? Star Trek has 2 TV series guaranteed for the next 2 years, and yet it feels like the franchise is on the wane. Star Trek Television was resurrected by Star Trek Discovery in 2017, which was the first new Star Trek TV series in 12 years after Star Trek Enterprise was canceled in 2005. Discovery's success ushered in an expansive Star Trek on Paramount Plus streaming franchise, which came to boast Star Trek, Picard, Star Trek, Lower Decks, Star Trek, Prodigy, and Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Although there have been 13 Star Trek theatrical movies, and the first Star Trek made-for-streaming movie, Star Trek Section 31, premieres January 24th on Paramount Plus, Star Trek has always been fundamentally a TV franchise. Star Trek is at its best on television, which allows for the long-form storytelling needed to explore complex moral quandaries and Star Trek's massive pantheon of beloved characters. The perceived strength of Star Trek lies not just in the quality of its TV series, but also in its quantity. After Star Trek, the original series in the 1960s spawned multiple spin-offs from the late 1980s to the early 2000s, starting with Star Trek: The Next Generation. Star Trek has TV shows set for the next 2 years. More Star Trek is coming to Paramount Plus, starting with Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3. Strange New Worlds' hotly anticipated Season 3 will arrive roughly 2 years after Strange New Worlds Season 2, due to filming being delayed by the combined SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes in 2023. With production already completed, Strange New Worlds Season 3 awaits its official 2025 release date on Paramount Plus. Excitingly, the streamer already renewed Star Trek Strange New Worlds for Season 4, which starts production of its next 10 episodes in early 2025 for a targeted 2026 release. Star Trek Starfleet Academy is also assured 2 seasons after Paramount Plus renewed it while Season 1 was filming. The newest Star Trek on Paramount Plus series is filming both seasons back-to-back. With a stellar young cast led by Academy Award winner Holly Hunter and Academy Award nominee Paul Giamatti playing Season 1's main villain, Starfleet Academy is also loaded for bear with Star Trek legacy characters like the Dr. Robert Picardo from Star Trek Voyager. It's possible Star Trek Starfleet Academy Season 1 could also premiere in late 2025, with Season 2 in 2026, or the 2 seasons could be released in 2026 and 2027. Either way, 40 hours of new Star Trek are coming. Why it feels like the Star Trek franchise is failing. As exciting as the prospect of both Star Trek Strange New Worlds and Star Trek Starfleet Academy may be, audiences had so much more Star Trek to enjoy just recently. In 2022 and 2023, Star Trek on Paramount Plus had 5 Star Trek series on the air. 2022 was remarkable because between all of those shows, there was a new episode of Star Trek premiering every Thursday for almost the entire year. 2023 followed with the acclaimed double shot of Star Trek Picard Season 3 and Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2. 2024 was also a better year than it seemed for Star Trek. Star Trek Discovery ended with Season 5, but it went out on a high with one of its strongest efforts. Star Trek Prodigy Season 2 on Netflix and Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5, also its final season, leaned into the multiverse and delivered stunningly imaginative all-time classics that showed genuine reverence for Star Trek's lore. The end of Lower Decks on Paramount Plus, and Netflix still not renewing Prodigy, especially stings because Star Trek animation was in a golden age, which has come to a stop. In the vast reaches of space, where no one has gone before, the Star Trek franchise once stood as a shining beacon of hope, innovation, and storytelling excellence. But lately, even with shows lined up until 2026 and beyond, many longtime fans are asking a difficult question: is Star Trek failing? To answer that, we have to travel back in time, not with a warp core, but with context. For decades, Star Trek thrived by challenging social norms, exploring complex moral dilemmas, and offering a utopian vision of the future. From the original series in the 60s to The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, each series built upon the mythos while maintaining a core of humanistic optimism. Even when the franchise stumbled, like with Enterprise, there was a sense of course correction on the horizon. Fans believed the spirit of Trek would endure. Fast forward to today, and the landscape is very different. Since Star Trek Discovery relaunched the brand in 2017, there's been a tidal wave of content. Picard, Lower Decks, Strange New Worlds, Prodigy, each offering its own flavor of Trek. On paper, this should be a golden age. Yet the reaction from both critics and fans has been mixed, to put it gently. So what's going wrong? First, there's a sense that Star Trek has lost its philosophical edge. In a bid to compete with prestige TV and high-budget sci-fi like The Expanse or The Mandalorian, many of the new shows lean heavily into action and spectacle. There's no denying the effects are stunning, but glitzy visuals don't replace the soul of Trek. What once was slow-burn moral storytelling is now fast-paced plot twists and shootouts. The transporter beam has been replaced with a cinematic lens flare. Second, there's the issue of identity. Each show feels like it's trying to be something else. Discovery began as a gritty war story. Picard morphed into a cyberpunk noir. Lower Decks is a self-aware animated comedy that parodies its own franchise. Strange New Worlds is perhaps the closest to classic Trek, but it too struggles to balance modern sensibilities with old-school charm. Instead of boldly going in one unified direction, the franchise feels scattered, unsure of its purpose. Let's not ignore the tonal whiplash either. Viewers are bouncing from the tragic deconstruction of Picard's aging legacy to a cartoon character being punched by a sentient Mugato. That might work for a franchise like Marvel, but Star Trek was never about brand synergy, it was about exploration, curiosity, and unity. Another challenge is the franchise's relationship with its fans. Many longtime Trekkies feel alienated by the new direction. They don't necessarily dislike change, DS9 proved Trek could evolve, but they want to feel like the writers understand what Star Trek is at its core. When characters drop F-bombs or plotlines lean on grimdark aesthetics, it's not the language that offends, it's the sense that Trek has forgotten its own prime directive. This isn't to say everything is doom and gloom. Strange New Worlds has been widely praised for embracing episodic storytelling and character warmth. Lower Decks, while divisive, shows a deep reverence for Trek lore beneath the snark. Prodigy might even be the best gateway for younger audiences. There are flashes of brilliance, episodes that remind us why we fell in love with this universe in the first place. But those moments feel like exceptions rather than the rule. The truth is, Star Trek isn't failing because it lacks content. It's failing because it lacks cohesion. It's trying to be too many things for too many people, and in doing so, it's lost the singular voice that once made it unique. As we head toward 2026 and beyond, the hope is that the franchise will find its balance again. That it will remember Gene Roddenberry's vision of a future where humanity has grown past its petty conflicts and embraced understanding, diplomacy, and wonder. That it will stop chasing trends and instead chart its own course, just as it always did. Because Star Trek isn't just a TV show. It's a mirror held up to society, a dream of what we could become. And if it can find its true north again, it might just live long and prosper once more. Let me know if you want a punchier version or a more fan-driven perspective. It lacks content. It's failing because it lacks cohesion. It's trying to be too many things for too many people, and in doing so, it's lost the singular voice that once made it unique. As we head toward 2026 and beyond, the hope is that the franchise will find its balance again. That it will remember Gene Roddenberry's vision of a future where humanity has grown past its petty conflicts and embraced understanding, diplomacy, and wonder. That it will stop chasing trends and instead chart its own course, just as it always did. Because Star Trek isn't just a TV show. It's a mirror held up to society, a dream of what we could become. And if it can find its true north again, it might just live long and prosper once more. Let me know if you want a punchier version or a more fan-driven perspective.